Hello! Welcome to Green Bay Botanical Garden. My name is Michael, the Education Intern. I am back with our Facebook Live series, and we are once again in the greenhouse. It may seem like I'm always here, but I actually do go home and sleep and eat. And we are back today to talk about indoor plants, just like last time. Previously, we covered a lot of the basics of what you need to know to care for indoor plants. Today, we're going to be digging into some of the specifics of what are good indoor plants for beginners and people who live in low light situations, like myself. I don't get a lot of light in my living space, so I need plants that can do well. And also, a lot of people who are just getting into indoor plants, or even people who are more experienced, want plants that are more hardy and easy to care for. So we'll be going over those today. We've got some right here in our greenhouse, but due to the season, we don't have all of them in stock, so I brought some pictures that I'm going to hold up and show some of the species that we don't have with us today. In order to talk about these things, we've got to recap just one point that we went over in our last video, which is lighting. A lot of these plants are going to be doing okay in low light, and they're going to be doing well in medium light. What do I mean by low and medium light? Well, low light is an area that might just have a north-facing window. It's a room in your home or your living space that gets some light, but you wouldn't describe it as very much. All plants need some kind of light. They don't want to be completely in the dark, but maybe you just have normal bulbs in there, maybe a north-facing window. Medium light is an area that's going to be getting a fair amount of light throughout the day, but not a ton. So an east or west facing window, maybe you've got a fluorescent bulb that's on a lot of the time. Fluorescent bulbs provide a bit more light than standard just normal bulbs for plants. So a medium light condition is probably going to be east or west facing windows. So now that we've talked about light, what are good plants for low light conditions and for beginners? Well, the first two that I always think of when I think of indoor plants, especially good picks, are the pothos and the spider plant. Pothos is ubiquitous. It is everywhere. It is a trailing, vine-like plant. It's got kind of spade-shaped leaves. I've got a picture here of the marble queen cultivar. And if you are probably very familiar with this, if you've ever seen indoor plants anywhere, they can be kept small or they can get to be pretty large. I've seen some crazy pothos. And they are a very hardy tolerant plant. They grow very well indoors in low light conditions and medium light conditions and brighter light conditions. They don't like direct sunlight and they don't like to be waterlogged, to be overwatered, but short of that, these plants will do fine. I've got a couple pothos. They do great even without a lot of attention and just infrequent waterings. They are not pet friendly, so don't get them, or at least don't put them in an area where a pet will be able to get them because they will be toxic to animals. Another similar pick is the spider plant, which we don't have and I don't have a picture of. But most people are familiar with the spider plants. They've got long, thin leaves that come up from a base, and they send out these long runners that look like spider legs that actually help propagate the plant. And their care is pretty much the same as the pothos. They don't need anything special at all, and just let them dry out between watering to avoid letting them get waterlogged, and don't put them directly in the sun. Both these plants can be used really well in households. They make great tabletop plants for center. The spider plant makes a great tabletop plant for a centerpiece to draw attention or attraction, and it does really well in a hanging basket too because of those long spider-like runners that it sends out. Make for a really cool look when people are walking near it. The pothos I've seen used on walls, and having it trail along or hanging down adds a really awesome natural effect that I thought was just amazing. Even having seen a lot of plant displays, one of the most basic common plants can just be used so well, like art sometimes. Our next pick, which I had last time I was here but disappeared on me, is the snake plant, the Sansevieria. And these come in a couple different cultivars, but they are plants, one of the few that can actually be brought into a higher light situation. They're one of the few that can actually tolerate direct sunlight. If you do have a snake plant or decide to get one and you want to put it in direct sun, make that change slowly. But even in Wisconsin, you could set it outside and it would be fine. Here's a picture I have of one. Most people, I think, are familiar with the snake plant. It's got that upright habit and those very long twisting leaves. It is, in my opinion, a very, very beautiful plant. And it is a very hardy plant. You shouldn't really encounter any issues having it inside with pests or diseases. And as long as I am now getting misted, I'm going to step aside. And as long as you water it and let the soil dry in between waterings, don't waterlog it or go without completely watering it, it should be fine. I've got one that's doing pretty well in low light. It stays small. All three of these plants that we've talked about will grow a lot better if you can provide them medium light or bright indirect light, but they will maintain on low light, which means they should be able to do okay. But if you want a bigger plant, you're going to have to put it in higher light situations and fertilize it throughout the growing season. I've seen snake plants sold very small, mine's tiny, and I've also seen giant pots of snake plants that are just absolutely massive. And I think they make a really great kind of like a side table plant, or even if it's large enough in your furniture in the corner of the room, to really draw a lot of attention. And that beautiful variegation on the side, that gold coloring, really makes them appealing to look at. So, if the snake plant is too challenging for you and you want something even easier to be able to grow indoors, look no further than the ZZ plant. It was a running joke with my horticulture teacher that this plant is nearly indestructible. And all the research I've done on it says it just thrives on neglect, is the quote I keep seeing. This is a plant that will do fine if you don't pay much attention to it. I've got a picture here. I always see them sold in garden stores in quite big or medium-sized pots, but apparently they can come in pretty little forms too, little tabletop plants. They've got broad, kind of V-shaped, beautiful foliage, and they will do just fine in pretty much any condition, short of being in direct sunlight or being in complete darkness. If you remember to water it every so often, it should live and it should do great. These aren't plants that suffer a lot for lack of attention. The only note about them is that they're not pet friendly, so don't get a ZZ plant if you have a pet. But otherwise, their care requirements are just about as basic as you can get, and they are very tolerant of low light conditions. My next pick, which we do, I believe, have a small one on, so we're going to walk over there. The next pick that I'd like to show is the cast iron plant. I've got a picture here that they look like when they're grown. And we've also got one that just appeared, so I'm pretty sure it's a cast iron plant. Not 100% positive on that ID. I'm used to seeing them a lot bigger than this, but these are an indoor plant. They are so named because they're extremely tolerant. They're extremely hardy plants that can just do well in almost any condition. Care is very similar to the ZZ plant. Indoor use is very similar to the ZZ plant, so they can go on the sides of furniture. They can be a small tabletop plant. They make a really bold statement with those broad leaves, and they're very tolerant of low light conditions. Both the ZZ and the cast iron plant are very hardy. You shouldn't encounter any pest issues, and they will do fine in low light. If you want them to grow big, put them in a higher light condition and think about fertilizing them through the growing season. And these plants, I've actually heard, can get some nice little variegation, not real bold like the snake plant, but a little bit of variegation that will appear in some cultivars if you keep them in medium light conditions, which, in my opinion, these plants are a really good pick for just looking really classy and elegant. You're not going for tropical feel, you're going for something muted, that dark green, that bold foliage. I've seen them used to great effects in offices to just give it kind of a regal effect and look. Over here will be our next plant that we want to highlight, and that is a group known as the Dracaenas. This one is the corn plant. And there's another one over here I'm not exactly sure what type of Dracaena this is, but I know from looking at the leaves that it is a Dracaena. And Dracaenas are a really broad and varied group. The most common are like the Janet Craig Dracaena, the lemon lime Dracaena, the corn plant. There's one called the Peperomia, and there's one called the dragon tree, which I have a picture of. And I see them very often on recommendations for new indoor plant growers because they're just hardy, they're forgiving of mistakes, they're just good all around, easy care plants to have. They're not pet friendly, but they come in so many different varieties and habits that the ways they can look are so much different. The variegation on some is very beautiful, and they just have a lot of uses if you like a really varied indoor plant. Care for them is pretty standard. They will tolerate low light, but they do prefer medium light. One that I was given as a gift that did very well on extremely low light for over a year, but it did eventually pass away. And other than that, and having a well-draining soil, general care requirements for the Dracaena are water it, let the soil dry between waterings, and they should do pretty well. That's a generalization. There's a lot of different cultivars of Dracaena, but most of the basic ones like the Janet Craig should be pretty good. Some of them, I think the corn plant is one that prefer the soil a little more moist, but in general, a great beginner plant that is very forgiving of a lot of different situations. Next, I'm going to grab this. I'm going to step over here. If you'd like something that is pet friendly and does have a great tropical feel, I'm going to recommend a Parlor Balm. It's going to be one of my top indoor plant picks. We've actually got what I'm pretty sure is a very similar species, the bamboo palm. I know it's either a bamboo or a Parlor palm. They are both called Chamaedorea palms, which I might be slightly mispronouncing. And they are some of the best palms for low light conditions. A lot of people get freaked out thinking palms, I'm going to need higher light, they might not be pet friendly, they're going to be finicky, and that's true of a fair amount of palms. But the Parlor palm is the most basic, easy care palm you can get. The bamboo has a little more preference towards medium light, but is otherwise very similar, and they will thrive in lower light conditions well. Just let the soil dry between watering. They like it a little more humid, so if you want to pep them up, you can put a humidifier or some standing water nearby, but they should do fine without any type of special care. They can be a little more prone to pests like mealybugs, but I haven't had any problems with my palm, and the Parlor palm seems to be pretty hardy from what I've seen of it. So the Parlor palm is a great pick for some tropical feel if you'd like to have that statement, but you don't have a lot of light to work with. So if you want a palm, it is one to go with. I'm going to be walking this way, and we've got one more to show. Both the Parlor palm and the bamboo palm are pet friendly. Not all palms are. We've got fishtail here. That is a bit harder to care for. It needs higher light, and it is not a pet friendly palm to have. So go for the Parlor if you're going to pick a good, easy palm. Our next one is one that isn't pet friendly at all. In fact, it is toxic, and it is called the giant dumb cane, which is a very weird name. Why would you name a plant a giant dumb cane? Well, the name apparently, from what I've found doing research, comes from when someone had found the plant and eaten it. It had actually either numbed, paralyzed, or inflamed their vocal cords, and preventing them from being able to talk, which made them seem dumb, which, in my opinion, could be better named for, but the point is gotten across well that this plant is very toxic. Do not get the giant dumb cane if you have pets, children, or anything that might eat it. It is a highly toxic plant, but if there's no risk of it being eaten, it is a beautiful indoor plant. It's got these cream-colored leaves that add a lot more brightness than something like the cast iron plant. This one will do fine in low light. It will grow decently medium light, and it can get to be about as tall as I am. So it can get to be a little taller than I am. It can get to be 6 feet tall. Unlike a lot of the other ones we covered today, this plant does like the soil a little more on the moist side. So you don't want to waterlog it. It can get root rot easily, just like the spider plant Pothos. But you do want to make sure it doesn't completely dry out. And I feel the soil on this one. I can feel a little bit of dampness. It's not wet, it's not dark, but it's not completely dry either. You're going to want to keep the dung cane in a situation like that. Also avoid direct sunlight, as with nearly all of these plants except for the snake plant. Don't put it directly in the sun. Otherwise, it's a very forgiving plant that's tolerant of a lot of different conditions. One that is a good option if you have pets is a little one here, the Peperomia. This one is a little buddy. I really like how they look. They come in a couple different varieties. There's the baby rubber plant, the emerald ripple, and the ripple Peperomia. They generally stay pretty small, little plants. They're great for tabletops. Easy care, same as I've been saying for a lot of the other ones. Just let them dry out between watering. They don't really need anything special. These ones would like a little more medium light conditions, but I've heard they're pretty tolerant of low light too. And they are just beautiful little plants that do really well on a shelf or table to draw in attention and add some of this beautiful texture. And they come in a lot of different cultivars, some of which have beautiful colors too. One important note about the Peperomia is that while one of the cultivars, the Aspidistra, is known as the baby rubber tree, it is not the same as the indoor plant known as the rubber tree, which is a toxic plant, and it is a ficus. This is a Peperomia, which is the Latin name. You're going to want to shop for the Peperomia if you want one of these. Just like with the Parlor palm, you want to search for the Chamaedorea palm. Those are all the plants I have to show you. I have one more picture of one that I'd like to highlight. This is going to be a tiny bit more advanced than the other ones I've talked about today, but this is one that I like to try. It's still a basic pear plant, but it's going to be a little more fickle than the others. It is called the Calatheas. It goes by so many different names, including... going to step aside to avoid the shower. It goes by so many different names, including the Peacock plant, the zebra plant, and the rattlesnake plant. This is just one cultivar. They've got so many different types of beautiful leaves and foliage. Some of them have that cream color like the gum cane. Some of them have like reddish, pinkish margins. They are really beautiful and varied texture plants. But they are a little more tricky to care for. In terms of light, they'll do okay in lower light, but they do prefer more of the medium light, much like the Peperomia. And what makes them more tricky is the fact that these ones really rely on humidity. So you're going to want to have a humid environment with either humidifier, standing water, putting them near other plants, misting them frequently, to make sure they do not dry out, which is very harmful for this plant. And the soil is going to need to be consistently moist. Not wet and waterlogged, but you're going to want to keep the soil from drying out for these plants. But they are pet friendly, and they are a great pick for those of you who would like a poinsettia or something like that, but don't want to have to worry about the blooms and keeping it alive. So those are all of the plants today. The ones that we've covered have been the spider plant and the Pothos, the snake plant, aka the Sansevieria. We've covered the giant gum cane, which is extremely toxic. We have covered the ZZ plant, which is also toxic. We've covered the cast iron plant, which is cast iron and ZZ are just tanks of plants that can survive almost any conditions. We've also covered the Peperomia, the little Peperomia, the Calatheas, which likes to be kept very humid, and the Parlor palm, / the bamboo palm. They're similar enough that it doesn't really matter that much, which are great low light palm plants, as well as some general tips for Dracaenas, which are a wide and varied group, but are all generally pretty easy to care for. If you've got any awesome plants that you have at home that you think are good for beginners that I didn't highlight here today, feel free to post them in the comments. If there's anything else you want to know about interior plants that you'd like us to cover, tell us in the comments. Otherwise, I hope that I was able to help everyone learn about a new type of plant that they might be able to go out and adopt and bring into their home. Even if you're new, even if you don't have a lot of light, you can do these plants. You can take care of them, and they can at least hang on and live and still be a beautiful accent to your home, even if you don't have enough light to get them to grow alive. I hope to see you all next time on our Garden Facebook Live.